and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. Before we get to the show, let's get the pleasantries out of the way.
First of all, our website. If you want more information about our little podcast, go to wearethecontrarians.com. That's where you'll find links to our old episodes, to our Patreon channel, and to our awesome Contrarians merch.
You can show your support by buying a Contrarians mug or a pillow.
I like the laptop bags myself.
Second of all, if you enjoy the show, tell your friends. Or even go a step further and leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts.
Finally, if you want to reach out directly to us, that's what social media is for. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Contrarian Prime, or check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
Julio runs our official Twitter account at Contrarian Prime, but if you want to give me a piece of your mind or just want to banter about pro wrestling, you can follow me at Contrarian Alex.
And that's it. That's our intro.
Now, time for the show.
This is our lesson.
And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for Nothing But Trouble.
Hello and welcome back to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my friend Julio. We have some returning friends of ours as well. We are here today to travel back to 1991 to February 15th of 1991 to be exact. So that was more of a... this was the Valentine's Day release, not Christmas. But here to discuss the Dan Aykroyd penned and directed Nothing But Trouble, starring Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, John Candy, and Demi Moore, of course, Chevy Chase. I don't know how the fuck he got top billing in 1991, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Brought to us by our returning friends here, Julio, who's filling out the studio from the other side of the globe with us this evening.
So Spit and Polish is back. That's, let's get that out of the way first. Spit and Polish is back, Ryan Bartek. And generally, whether it's them guesting on our show or us guesting on theirs, there's got to be a little offbeat. Whether it's them testing us with a movie that they may think that we don't like or that we may not like, or them just trying to share their knowledge, such as when we did The Paleface on your show. A movie that I didn't know existed until we did there. But anyway,
Julio's a big Lemonade Joe fan. He already knew about that film before walking in to discuss that one.
To this day, we reference Lemonade Joe every now and then.
Because it's a perfect film.
Very good. I'm happy.
It's no Nothing But Trouble, but it's a perfect film.
So tell us a little bit, before we get into Nothing But Trouble, tell us a little bit about Spit and Polish, and then, Ryan, just go ahead and tell us about Yum Yum Pod as well.
Well, we're flipping a coin. Which goes first? Yum Yum goes first. Sorry, Bartek. My wife, Rachel, and I host a TV podcast where we rewatch and revisit and review episodes of science fiction television. We go over Star Trek Discovery, one of the greatest series ever made. I hope it goes to 10 seasons. And we talk about Babylon 5, the mid-1990s sci-fi series, great space opera epic, lots of moving parts to it. We break those down. We just have a general discussion about how this fares on our rewatch, things that we're picking up this time round, any pieces of trivia or information. This actor was in Babylon 5. Oh, look, it's Freddy himself. He was in Babylon 5. Isn't that an interesting little detail? That Freddy Krueger himself was in this 90s sci-fi show. How odd. And so that's what I do over at Yum Yum Podcast with my wife, Rachel. But Bartek, you and I host a podcast.
Yes, that's true. Rachel's husband and I host a podcast called Spit and Polish Presents. That is our little umbrella brand. So we used to do a show called Unappreciated Masterpieces. We are on hiatus for a monthly show almost called
Mystery Box.
The Mystery Box. But what we've been doing for the past, it's been about
couple years,
yeah, literally couple. Since 2019, we've been doing Pictures Powwow. The original PP, as Ryan calls it.
Yes, the original PP, Pictures Powwow.
Where every week we do on a cycle a film that I recommend, a film that Ryan recommends, or a film that is recommended by the listening people. That's everyone except me and him.
Yes. So we've had movies recommended by the Contrarians in the past. We've had some really good ones and one really, 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 really boring one.
Very bad
Thanks,
things. We had
War Machine.
War Machine. That's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of How to Succeed at Business Without Really Trying.
Oh, yes.
One of
The
my
musical.
favorite episodes of your show, and of course, part of it is just because I just wanted to hear you guys talk about it, and I got my wish.
There you go. Wish upon a star.
But yeah, we do that every week. We review a different film and we give our honest thoughts on them, and it's been really fun.
With that in mind, Nothing But Trouble is very much, and I think Alex would agree, very much a spit and polish selection.
Yes, we did it on Unappreciated Masterpieces, the first show that I mentioned. So
Yeah.
you can check that episode out.
So if you've heard previous appearances from Ryan and Bartek here, or if you're already a listener from their show, then you gotta know what you're in for, and it will be a lot of fun.
So, if this is your first time listening to The Contrarians, let us just give you a quick rundown of what it is we do here for our returning listeners. Hang tight with us. We'll get to Nothing But Trouble here shortly. Here on The Contrarians, we like to rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. That is our battle cry. Find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is highly rated, a lot of times known as certified fresh. And what we'll do in the first half of our show is bring that movie down to size, talk about maybe some of the overrated aspects of it, be it questionable acting, bad storytelling, direction, bad score, some things maybe critics just kind of swept under the rug in an attempt to push their narrative forward. And conversely, like we'll be doing on today's episode, we'll find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is lowly rated, one of those nasty green splotches known as rotten, this being 13%, quite rotten. And we'll do, just as you would imagine, we'll build that movie up, discuss that movie's merit, some of the aspects of it, be it soundtrack, direction, surprisingly good acting, things that we feel kind of got a bum rap and not the proper credit they deserved, all in an attempt to prove, number one, this shit is subjective. You can be as positive and over the moon about something as you want to be, or as cynical and negative about something as you want to be if you truly set your mind to it. And number two, just in our never-ending quest as film nerds to kind of call out that Rotten Tomatoes score doesn't always exactly tell the whole story. But that all comprises the first half of our show, what we call Contrarians Corner. Julio, if listeners want to know how we really feel about the movies we're discussing, they just have to hang around for the second half, part two.
That's right, part two, the aptly titled Real Talk. I think that conversation about this movie has been minimal between us, Alex. We shared a couple of text messages that had more to do with the logistics of recording and not so much the movie itself. So I'm pretty excited. I honestly, I mean, I'm always pretty honest when I'm doing this intro, but I really don't know if you like this movie or not. Like with Ryan and Bartek, I have an idea. With you, it could go either way. There's a lot of practical effects. There's actors that I think you like. It's not a long movie.
Cinematographer that you love, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I could just see this. If this gets on your nerves, I don't think that it ever gets better. So, I am very curious, and I'm curious about what Ryan Bartek have to say. Even though, like I said, I think I have you guys a little more figured out. Who knows? Anyway, listeners, you and I and everybody else in this call is going to find out what's going on for real on the second half of the show. But first, since this is a rotten movie, we're going to say really nice things about it, whether we believe it or not. That's what Contrarians Corner is all about.
All right. So again, Nothing But Trouble, 1991. Dan Aykroyd wrote and directed this. I guess this was like his rosebud. He obviously had a lot of pride going into it. Anyone care to wager how Chevy Chase got top billing in 1991?
I can tell you. I know for a fact.
Oh, go for
Chevy
it.
Chase was making nothing but successful films right up until this point. You look at his career, and each year he was in bang after bang after bang, hit after hit after hit. And him and Dan Aykroyd obviously had a hit together with the film Spies Like Us. So it was an obvious choice to get Chevy involved. And there's actually a story about how Chevy Chase they all seemed like, oh, Chevy won't want to do this because this is outside of what he usually does. But that's the exact reason why Chevy Chase joined on. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to play something a little outside of his realm of comedy and enter into the horror comedy sphere and just do whatever Dan Aykroyd wanted to lead him to do. So that's how you get Chevy Chase involved here.
That sounds like that Chevy Chase guy. He's very easy to work with. He just does what you tell him to. Mm-hmm. Just gets along with everybody.
He's Chevy Chase and you're not, so accept that. And Demi Moore was still up and coming when they filmed this, I should say. I mean, yes, we'll talk about her career, I'm imagining, but for her, filming-wise, this was still the earlier part of her, so she wouldn't have been that big of a star
when they signed her on. this is before Indecent Proposal. So she was not a Hollywood megastar.
Yeah, before Charlie's Angels.
Before Mr. Brooks.
Before Ashton Kutcher. So yeah.
Before we were born, Ryan.
Look, this is not about our personal relationship, Miriam. This is business. Do you understand? It's about my professional credentials, my law firm's time. Why am I talking to you?
All right, Julio, like we said, 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is not a critical darling. What were the then, now, forever the critics saying about this on Rotten Tomatoes?
And we're going to start with two, like a 1-2 punch. Michael A. Smith from Nolan's Pop Culture Review says, nothing but crap. And Josh Gilchrist from Billings Outpost, Montana says, nothing but a complete mess. I am sad to report that those were the only two quotes that use the nothing but format. But
you're sad about that. Okay, cool. Well,
yeah,
real creative, guys.
If they're going to disappoint me, I want them to really disappoint me. I need 10 of these. For something with a little more substance, Candace Russell from the South Florida Sun Sentinel says, a perfectly dreadful film. I don't think it's dreadful. I think that there are some parts that are kind of scary, so they give you a sense of dread. But I don't think that that's how she means it. I think she just means dreadful.
She meant to review Judge Dredd. She just put it on the wrong one.
I like that P word that she used, though.
Which one? Pretty?
No, perfectly.
Oh,
perfectly.
Sorry. Yeah, it's perfect.
That one feels all right for some reason.
That's accurate, yeah.
Next, Ralph Novak from People Magazine says, after a few minutes, it's clear that this comedy is not enigmatic, just hopelessly confused. I don't think so. I think that Dan Aykroyd, you may like it or you may not, but the end result, but I think that he had a clear vision. This is not a movie that just happened.
It's a very clear vision into the mind of one man.
It's one of the big appeals of the film that there was a very clear vision.
it's ripped from somebody's brain. Let's just say that.
Yeah, this is. I think the critics are confused. Alex, we're gonna close with Ken Hankey, old friend of the show, even though he probably doesn't know it.
Ken.
We love Hankey.
Mountain Express from Asheville, North Carolina. He says, "Boy, is it bad! Almost worth seeing to see just how bad." And I will half agree with Ken Hankey here, and the part that it's worth seeing. I think that, just like with the previous quote, whether you like it or not, when this movie's over, you can at least say, all right, well, I watched it, and I probably would never have watched something like it until I was done with this. So I am glad that I can put it on my letterbox. It's part of my film watching history. Kudos to all four of us for making that happen.
All right, so Nothing But Trouble is the story of Chris Thorne, played by Chevy Chase, who's a financial advisor in early 1990s New York City. The opening credits vary of the time, the scanning of the skyline of New York City at night while the text for the credits plays over, and everyone gets like a credit. Brian Doyle gets a credit, and he's in the movie for like 2 minutes. So... ending on written and directed by Dan Aykroyd. And this movie just right away, it establishes our love interest, our couple, our 1-2 punch as we get a meet cute between Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, which is honestly something I never had thought of or knew happened in the history of American film.
Yeah, what a pairing, huh? That's what we call perfect casting right there. And even, Demi Moore, she said to Dan Aykroyd, I think you should film this scene in slow motion when I'm walking in. That was her, because she already knew that the audience would want to see her slowly. And what a wise mind that is.
I was more, gratified by watching young Chevy Chase at the top of his game. He is, I don't know how popular he is over there on the other side of the world, guys, but over here, he's kind of become this caricature of an out of touch old white man, and
he's
that's
infamous,
his shtick now. That's just what he does. When you see Chevy Chase in the movie, he's like playing that character, and he's still funny, but it's almost jarring to see him play kind of like a lead character that seems confident and that other people see as attractive, that other people may see as a threat. It's I didn't grow up with watching Chevy Chase movies, so to me, the only other times I've seen him like this is when I watched Christmas Vacation last year, and it was also it was kind of like the same feeling of like, this is Chevy Chase. I get it now. I get how he got to the point where he was on top of the world at some point, at a point in time, and then whether it was bad choices in his filmography or just lack of desire to keep being a leading man, but now he's just more of a, I guess it's hard for an actor to stay on top all the time, but it was such a pleasure to see him again in his prime in this movie, and just knowing that it was going to be him leading us along.
I'm used to Chevy Chase from this era, and when we talk about modern stuff with Chevy, he was the reason I watched Community, because I grew up with Chevy, whether it's the vacation films, Caddyshack, of course. He has a large body of work that I've enjoyed. I've even enjoyed some of his Saturday Night Live stuff. He has that thing where in real life he was just a rich boy who just decided, I'll do comedy, I'll do acting, and he has that attitude about it, and that's kind of the joy that you get from him. Like when you watch Fletch, you watch a movie where you see a rich actor guy who doesn't give a shit, and that's kind of charming. And there are those actors like that currently who we gravitate towards because you just know that they have an overall disdain for everything, but it's endearing as well. And especially from this era of comedians, you had him and Bill Murray and so on and so forth that had that kind of cynical streak to them. And Chevy was the one who would play, the family man sometimes with Vacation, but most of the time he would play yuppies, like in this film.
I mean, when you see him there, because if you present day, if you say Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, you're like, what? But when you see it back when it happened, it makes perfect sense. It's two attractive people getting in an elevator, and you can see the sparks fly.
Yeah, we get the meet cute. Demi Moore has her dogs that we unfortunately don't see for the rest of the movie, but I mean, it's the Chevy Chase show right away. Like the way he's doing his comedy, he takes a drink of scotch thinking it's Coke, and he has the reaction to it, and just his very dry and droll delivery of everything. He is a financial advisor, and he has like a proposal from somebody that Demi Moore seems to recognize. Ryan Bartek, what is the relationship here that Demi Moore has to this piece of paper? Because she obviously has a big reaction to it.
One of the things I do want to emphasize, because I think this is an underlying thing, whether we're saying it out loud or not, is there is that discrepancy because Chevy's an older, not the most handsome guy in the world, and Demi's this young thing. But it does establish in this that she and both him and her are bad people. They're business people. She's drawn to him because she can find some opportunities because she's a lawyer and she's got a deal where she's going to have to help sign over a company to take away the land rights to, the Poconos? And that will be very important later in the movie when it comes to our main villain's reasoning for why he hates the rich, when it comes to land possession and swindling people. So that's actually something subtly set up. Like, you don't know that because you're starting the movie and you're just going, okay, what am I in for? But the movie is saying to you very quietly, these two people are both bad people, both people who exploit others for their own means, and they're going to exploit each other throughout this film. You're just going to have to watch. Also, there's some Brazilians.
Brazilians that speak Spanish, as they are all over Brazil.
But like you said, Ryan, though, it starts off normal, but then we get to see the normal type of interactions that these characters have. They just met, they have a little conversation, elevator, crying. 2 seconds later, I need to go somewhere. Can I borrow your car? No, I'll take you. We'll go on a road trip.
Yeah.
That is the unexpected odd couple stuff that I am in this film for, and why this film is not rotten.
Yeah. But it's even, and I'll go even further. I would say that it's not even just that it establishes some sort of normal environment, because they're being quirky once they start flirting and they have their interactions, but it's still, it feels like this could happen in the real world. But even beyond that, I think that it also paints them as, it sets you up for a movie. If you are like me and you don't know anything about this, it sets you up for a very different movie than the one we get, 20 minutes later. If you're thinking, okay, so this is going to be about socialites, and it's going to be about somewhat impenetrable legal story. It reminded me a lot of the beginning of the Phantom Menace, when like the diplomats are talking about the treaties and all that stuff, and you're like, is this a Star Wars movie? What is going on? And then you just keep going, and eventually you get all the cool stuff. But
yeah, I'll confess, when Alex asked me the question of what her relationship was to the thing, I blanked out. I freaked out. That's too much for me.
You
I was here for the romance.
Sorry about that. That's Fausto and Ronaldo Squirinizu. I give them investment counseling sometimes. They're Brazilianaires.
So the next day, they embark on a trip to Atlantic City because Chevy Chase sees this as an opportunity to, canoodle with Demi more, to take advantage of, his position in business and this trip he could go on. He's very, very hungover. It's made just for the bit of he's so hungover he can barely pick up his keys, but as soon as he sees Demi Moore in that white outfit, bling, washes right away. It's the SpongeBob movie where SpongeBob is really hungover. I forget what happens, but there's this animated cell of like him like jolting and the hangover completely leaves his body. It's what it reminded me of. So Demi, Diane Lightson, she's like obsessed with driving. She wants to drive this car so fucking bad. Like every other word is, well, I'll drive.
That Beamer.
He's got a nice car. He starts it up and it's like the fucking Batmobile, but they can't escape before the Brazilianaires hop in the car with them and off they go. My note says annoying cliche Brazilian couple. Because, in the late 80s, early 90s, we have to have the not even well-to-do, but like the overly attached, self-unaware, flamboyant foreign couple.
Well, Tyler Negron has to play something in this time period. That's what he did. That's what that actor, he always played those roles. And hey, I was happy to see him in this.
Oh, man, he's a very big that guy actor.
Oh,
when I saw him, hey, that guy.
I also think that their presence, the Brazilians, that is like, they're necessary so you can get a more of a wider range of reactions and emotions when it comes to what lies in the future of this movie, right? Because Chevy Chase, for the most part, he is too cool to overreact to anything, to even like, you know what I mean? Like he takes everything kind of in
That's a
stride.
shoot, brother. That's him in everyday life. He's too cool for everything.
Yeah. He is Chevy Chase, and we're not. And that this movie is just that it. And then you have Demi Moore, who reacts more like I think most people would in these situations. She was, every time something weird happened and she had a reaction, I'd be like, that would probably be me. And
she
then
was a
you have
go-getter. That was her. She was a go-getter. Like every weird thing, she would be like, okay, I'm going to roll with this and see if I can twist this to make it so that it's okay for me. That's her throughout the whole movie. She's like, okay, something weird's happening. Okay, I'll just go with it. Hey, do you want to play cards? I want to play cards. Let's do it.
On this beginning bit, though, when they're in the car, like she's 25% of the passengers, but she's the only one that actually wants to go to the destination. So, she's kind of got, the main understandable motivation, whereas our other three characters, they shake it up a little bit for us.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, the Brazilians are just out there. In a way, I think that they're preparing us for the weirdness that's going to overtake the movie once we get to Dan Aykroyd's town. So, yes, they can be a little too much, but at the same time, I think that if you remove them from the movie, you would feel the void. You would feel their absence.
You know this because we'll get to it later.
Exactly.
What happened to the SpongeBobs of this story? They were the funny ones, but then some other funny things happen. So in a way, it kind of balances out, but the presence does get missed.
So they head off to Atlantic City. They end up just taking a wrong turn. I mean, it's weird in the sense of they're following these tropes that you see in all your cliche horror films, but it's like Chevy Chase and Demi Moore and that guy. So it's like, what's going on here? They are led astray. They cut through some town, like some little township that looks like a movie set, and they run a stop sign. Chevy Chase, of course, establishes, where the hell are we? They run a stop sign, attempt to evade the police officer that gets on their case, or on their tail, rather.
You get some great lore and world building, though, because when they're driving through the town, it is like this ragged town. There's like coal everywhere. There's pillars spitting out of the ground with smoke. Everyone's day drinking and giving them the mean-eyed look, and everyone's like okay, let's not annoy anyone. And they go past this stop sign that even you, the viewer, didn't notice until you got that close-up shot. And it's a goofy stop sign that has little lights on it, which I enjoyed.
Yeah. I mean, the film set comparison is really apt because this is kind of the aesthetic that we're going to get for the most part of the film. Like, this is going to be a really messy...
We're transported to another world now.
It's going to feel like a hoarder's paradise kind of film going forward, and that's why this sort of artificial look is appropriate for preparing us for what this film really is.
You go from the realistic New York City to this bizarre, otherworldly film-like setting.
Alex, did you get Hills Have Eyes vibes, or were you thinking of any other specific horror movie when this was happening? I kept waiting for them to stop at a gas station and ask for directions or something, and then we lose one of them.
Piss someone off.
Yeah.
Like, you think you're smarter than me? Yeah, they are going to pull over for a picnic, but then the Brazilians just get like super impatient and they just start eating in the car. And Demi Moore's chowing down too. Yeah. But they get in a high-speed chase with who we come to find out, the sheriff's deputy, John Candy. Officer Dennis Valkenheiser pulls him over, and Chevy chase and delivery that only he can give. Was I speeding? And, after he's going like 100 miles an hour. And, it's definitely taken on the elements of a horror movie here, though, because through the cop car, he's like controlling the roads and... almost like a Truman Show type thing.
Yeah.
Setting up barricades.
Which cop is scarier, Alex? Arlie Ermey in the Texas Chainsaw remake, or John Candy in this one?
I mean, Arlie Ermey's an intimidating son of a bitch, and like, he had already done like Full Metal Jacket and shit like that going into Texas Chainsaw. Here, I mean, John Candy's John Candy. Like I said, he was a polka king of the Midwest.
He's lovable
into this. Yeah.
It's offsetting, though, because he's playing it really straight. So you don't know how to read him because you naturally want to like him. And the film plays with that as we go along. But at first, you're having him just give the mean look to Chevy Chase. And Chevy Chase is doing his thing. He tries to bribe him, also furthering the fact that Chevy Chase is this rich guy that thinks that consequences for his actions don't apply to him. And, well, we'll shortly find out that's not true for you, man.
The film is really front-loading a lot of the like twists and tricks at this point because when they come to the town, we hear that it's called Vulcanvania. We see, again, the film set looking aesthetic. It's very weird. You're expecting something dark to happen. This cop is chasing them, and he's got all these like powers in terms of like gadgets and control. But then he's very pleasant and understanding when he pulls them over. It makes it perfectly clear that he's not going to even mention the speeding. Okay, we were expecting something a bit more in line with what we understand of Vulcanvania so far, but he seems, again, this kind of pull back to normalcy.
And you have that even challenged because the other policeman that's also in the scene, the woman, she's got like this big machine gun thing aimed at them throughout this entire ordeal. So you are really thrown for a loop because you have the dissonance of this policewoman with a gun who's threatening them, and John Candy being a mild-mannered, normal, polite police officer who's giving them a chance. And then you got Chevy Chase who doesn't give a shit.
Spread them? Oh, come on, now really. Spread them? Yeah, that's nice, thanks. The lower back, please. Thank you. Yeah, check the prostate. That's nice.
He hits him with the follow me back here. We're going to go meet with the Justice of the Peace. Which, again, if this dude was intelligent at all, he would be like, this isn't how this fucking works. You have to book me first. But anyway.
That goes back to the brilliant mind behind the film.
Yes,
yep.
well,
there you go.
You say that, but, there's some true life stories for Dan Aykroyd that says otherwise to you.
Touche. So, Chris Thorne and the gang follow Officer Vulcanheiser, where they're going to go. The courthouse is what they surmise, and it begins getting weirder and weirder. It's like in, the GTA games when you just start exploring for too long and you just find yourself in like a junkyard or, on the a pier somewhere where there's really nothing going on and the game developers never really thought you would go there.
There's like an arrow that keeps pointing you to return to the main story. Like, hey, go back to Atlantic City.
Yeah, or alternatively, like, oh, I'm not up to the part where the plot takes me here yet.
Yeah, so you see a scene that's like really detailed. You're like, why am I not having anything go on?
I had something like that happen to me in Metal Gear Solid 5, and I was like, oh shit, this is really creepy. Oh, I can't do anything here. Whoops.
Yeah, this movie meanders like Metal Gear Solid 5, so that's an apt comparison right there. But they eventually get into what appears to be like this giant junkyard, and then, it's kind of revealing itself more and more, and there's all these implements of destruction, but also this big house that they see, this mansion that, it looks like the fucking Haunted Mansion at Disney World. So they go in, John Candy sets the stage and calls in the Justice of the Peace to take his helm, and that is our director and writer, Dan Aykroyd, and we find out this is Judge Alvin J.P. Volkenheiser, a 106-year-old. There's the grandfather of Dennis and some of the other characters that we come to find in this film, and he's a gross-looking individual, not unlike some of the zombies you would see in Dead Alive, or Brain Dead as it's known, and immediately has like a shtick. Now, I do need a compliment. It doesn't scream this is Dan Aykroyd, because Dan Aykroyd, original SNL cast member, film-wise, you would have to say Ghostbusters is probably his most famous movie, but part of his thing was always different voices. He could do he was like Phil Hartman kind of in that way. He could do like a big range of characters and voices, so he didn't really have one specific shtick that he was really known for. It's not like Adam Sandler, go doo-doo-doo, that type of thing. Dan Aykroyd shows up here, and it right away is this new character, J.P. Volkenheiser.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot happening in the atmosphere too, because you get all the film tricks. You don't see him straight away. He's obscured by all of these massive ancient books that are all cobweb infested and gross, and you just have this uneasy feeling, and you go to and you say to yourself, at least I did, and I've seen this movie before, is this still that romantic comedy that we were in like 5 minutes ago? What's happening? And then you get the glory shot where he gets up and yells, and you see the face, you see the full makeup, the hands, his outfit is key to his look as well, and you just go, oh my.
Yeah, and even on a visual level, like you mentioned, he was obscured by like the books on his desk. Like I mentioned before, the Hoarder's Paradise here, like the mise-en-scene from this point on in the film is basically like eating up the entire screen, and you've got this whole visual of it's eating up one of the major characters of the film that you're probably going to remember. So what is the main appeal of this film? Is it the place or is it the character? And when he comes out and you see what he really looks like, it's like, ooh, even with all this stuff, the outside of the mansion, the inside of the mansion, the things we're going to see going forward, this guy is what we're going to remember.
Yeah.
It changes the entire like trajectory and all the dimensions of the film, because even like the unsettling things of the cop being able to control, the moons and the tides and the surroundings, we didn't see like a real monster until this point, so it's a matter of this is interesting. Chevy Chase doesn't help his cause either, running his mouth off, but what the judge determines is they're going to reconvene tomorrow, so they have to stay overnight. He has like a fucking Dr. Evil style setup where you can press a button and they fall into like this well of squeaky toys. They obviously start panicking, and
it's like a ball pit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They start panicking, but kind of, trying to regain their bearings. They're eventually called to supper or dinner. I don't know if they call it supper in this, but
I think they call it supper.
Sounds like they would in this little old-timey place.
Are you kidding? They would call it supper.
Yeah, I didn't want to go ahead and give away my Texas Chainsaw stance, because that's what they call it in that movie. But so they call them for supper. Demi Moore is absolutely disgusted that one of the dishes is ants on a log, and this woman does not understand how to hold a piece of celery. I think that is like one of the most establishing shots of a character in this entire film.
Can we not miss before we go to this, because this is actually very important to the supper scene, because the supper scene's excellent, and I don't know if you have this in your notes, but meanwhile, a Baldwin is driving in a car as him and his gangster friends.
Was it a Baldwin? I thought he looked like somebody I should know.
Yes.
Daniel Baldwin.
And thank you for calling it back to it, because, I skipped over the line where I said, they're held overnight, but we see that others that are, put on trial in this little township here are not so fortunate, because, yes, it is a Baldwin. The lighting, it was kind of like a reveal shot. Like, I was like, is that Steven? Is that Billy? Who is that? But no, it's Daniel Baldwin, who, he's a Baldwin because he's got coke, his hair's slicked back, and he's got a gun.
Yeah. And was he the one in Biodome? I can't remember.
No, that's Steven. Steven is the one.
Biodome Steven.
All right.
Star of Biodome and Fred Claus, Stephen Baldwin. So they are arrested with drugs, DUI. They have firearms on them. And so we see that Chevy and the gang were a bit luckier because the judge sentences them to death. And, they get on the conveyor belt that whisks them into... Ryan, I'm sure you know what it's called. What's the machine that they get thrown into?
Mr. Bone Stripper. How could you forget? It has a song that plays as it does this to them. It's a roller coaster that goes down as a song plays. Fire is shooting up in the air, and they get put on this giant conveyor belt, and they're just shot through this Rube Goldberg machine of clamps and spikes and spinning things. And, well, what happens is they go through that, and we see a cut to behind the bone stripper, and there's a big pile of bones, and you see their bones...
Stripped bones,
and you see their bones shoot out and hit a target, and you hear the ding noise as it happens.
Hey, hey, ho, ha, ho! Hula, 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 the boola, boola, boola! Look who's got the front seats of the Mexican hat dance now! Just like a bunch of spiders in a birthday cake.
This came from the mind of Dan Aykroyd, writer/director. I mean, that is, in my mind, I just didn't know that he had it in him. When I think of him, I think of something that's more lighthearted. Not this really dark, twisted, really off-the-wall stuff. Like, I know he's quirky, but... From the moment that he comes on screen, well, number one, the movie becomes the movie. That's what we're gonna have for the rest of our runtime here. But also, it's such a left turn. I think that this is a crucial point. I think this is where the movie either loses you for good, or the movie hooks you. If you were like not so sure about the romantic comedy plot, you're like, okay, this seems like pretty familiar. Then this will probably capture your attention. And then on the other hand, if you were just settling in for a nice romantic comedy, this might be too much, and then you just tune out. And like, I don't really care.
If only When Harry Met Sally had Mr. Bone Stripper in it, that would have been a stellar film.
And obviously for like the four of us, we're on board for this. This is exactly what we want. But evidently, the 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, I guess most people were along for the ride as it started. Like, I honestly wonder if the people who, gave it a low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, if they would just write a review about everything before, Vulcanvania, would they say, like, this is peak stuff? Like, this is 100%, and then,
But, that's controversial, but Mr. Bone Stripper strips the flesh off the bones of some criminals, and then we get into the supper, because a nice little piece of business is, now we have some meat for the supper.
Yes. I mean, I can't get over Demi Moore not understanding how to hold a stalk of celery, but,
there were ants,
we'll move
Alex.
past that. It was peanut butter and raisins. Have you never had ants on a log? It's a delicious treat.
No.
You hold it like a fucking Slim Jim.
She probably thought they were real ants.
Alex immediately, fucking foreigner, jeez. Gone tootin', and he starts shooting his guns in the air and throws his cowboy hat up,
That's right. But like we get this awesome, invention or kind of just revelation of the hot dog, where it's a fucking train that goes around the table that has the different condiments on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unsettling because the way Dan Aykroyd eats his boiled fucking, it looks like Julio and I having the experience we do at the movie theater. It's one of those hot dogs that hasn't sold for 4 days and we have to heat up again.
And this scene's insane, by the way. Like, it starts out like a normal dinner scene, but then Dan Aykroyd descends from the roof. Like, it just opens up and he goes down. His leg jolts out all stiff and you hear him crack it back into place. He sits down. He smacks a thing on the table. It opens up. A little train comes out. This old gramophone music starts whirling around. He's got pineapple juice or whatever it is in this like old tin, and he just stabs it with something for engineering for cars.
And at some point, even though John Candy's already sitting, John Candy descends from the stairs.
Oh yes, I'm curious to hear what we have to say about other John Candy. But
we double dip.
Eldona?
Yeah, Eldona.
You can never have too much candy, guys.
But yeah, this is probably the centerpiece of the movie because it incorporates all the characters and the set and the wacky kind of humor that you get, where the humor now is becoming, oh, this is insanity. We're slowly descending into insanity where we become the Brazilianaires who are like, I can't. This pickle being thrown at me is the last straw.
Yeah,
No.
that's a really good point, because other than the cops later on and I'll just vaguely say the musicians. This is like every character in the film right here.
So John Candy, I guess he had in his contract that he needed to play 2 characters, and they told him, okay, who else do you want to play? He said, I want to play my character's mute cousin.
Sister.
That will have the hots for Chevy Chase. It is quite an entrance, and it really, I don't know. I used to, I remember which movie was it that kind of got on my, oh, you know what it was? It was one of your favorites, Ryan, Paddington, the first Paddington. Because there's a scene kind of later in the movie where, what's the name of is it Hugh Bonneville? The main,
yeah, Hugh Bonneville. Yeah,
Hugh Bonneville.
He dresses up as a cleaning lady, and then you got upset.
And I remember thinking, we're past the time when just where a scene would be funny just because you put a dress on a guy. It's like we've moved so far past that it's not like, forget about like anything other than just like, do you find this funny, right? But I'm thinking maybe that was just a Hugh Bonneville not really being up to the challenge of making that funny. Because from the moment that John Candy comes in dressed as a woman, there's something just, I guess it's just that, he's playing over the top, but it's also like he's playing a character. You know what I mean? Like this is a character that has motivations and has desires and everything. It's not just John Candy with a wig and a dress. He's actually playing a woman. And so that, I think that adds that extra level of like, okay, I find this, I understand why we did it.
But yeah, this was really, at this point, starting to remind me of Texas Chainsaw Next Generation with McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, just the way the house becomes like a maze and how everything just keeps getting stranger and stranger, and the family just seems to keep growing and having different aspects and wrinkles to it. But Diane and Chris get shown to their room. The romance, the sparks are flying already. This, of course, leads to Diane saying, "You're nothing but trouble." And that's when Chevy Chase looked at the screen or looked at the camera and winked at us and said,
Oh, at some point too, the Brazilianaires jump out the window because they've had enough.
I think the the supper scene freaked them out, so they ran away.
So, and I cheer at this. They have just their own little plot that runs for 2 scenes. They do the thing that in these movies you wish the characters would do, which is just leave. And they do. And you're waiting. Oh, they're going to get killed, right? They're going to get murdered in some trap. No, they successfully just leave.
I think it's
like, I'm laughing at it because it's a subversion of the expectation.
Not only do they leave, but they actually steal something from the film's narrative.
Yes, a John Candy with them.
Well, that too, but I was actually talking more on like a meta level. Remember how we established this as being a romance film and the romance stops? At the end, the last scene we see of them, we see the conclusion of a romantic arc.
There you are.
I liked it because it kind of showed that Aykroyd knew his limitations, and he was like, "There's only so many balls I can juggle," and I already introduced myself, JP, and I introduced John Candy in drag, and something had to go. So I understand that the decision of saying, okay, now we gotta streamline a little bit. You can't have all the craziness that goes on in the rest of the movie while also dragging the Brazilians screaming. I think that those characters, as entertaining and over the top as they could be, they reached they weren't going to offer anything else to the narrative. In fact, they maybe would have taken attention from, the really cool stuff that we want to see. So he writes them out. He writes original John Candy out. And that's fine. Do we miss them when they're gone? Like, initially, I guess, in the sense that you're right, we're conditioned to expect them to come back, to get in trouble, to not make it, But at the same time, I was so entertained by everything else that replaced them that it wasn't until we got to the end where I was like, oh yeah, that's right, those guys.
Their role in the movie is to react extremely to the most minute thing. So it's hilarious that him getting a pickle thrown at him is when he's like, "That's it, I've had enough," and they jump out the window. Because if you had those people in the rest of the film, you can only take them so far, while Demi Moore and Chevy Chase are far more dialed back. You can have them dial it up as we get the junkyard, or this door is full of baby dolls, or this attic is full of driving licenses of people. And so you need to remove these characters or find something different with them. And Dan Aykroyd, it's management of your script. okay, we need to escalate things, but these characters can't escalate anymore. Remove them. But instead of just killing them, wouldn't it be kind of funny if them just running away actually worked?
And also, again, on a meta level, you want these twins? It's okay. There are more twins in the film.
Yeah.
What is that smell?
It smells like Sao Paulo.
Toxic.
So the Brazilianaires managed to escape. They wade through the moat of poo and are able to get to the other side. And they think, freedom reigns, that type of thing. They run into Officer Dennis. John Candy standing there, though. Isn't he like smoking a cigarette with his gun?
Yeah.
Just kind of like chilling. Yeah. And they entice him, we're rich. We could take you away from all this. And he thinks about it and he's like, what am I going to do with money? I've been doing this since I was 8. But then they say, we'll take you with us on vacation. And he's like, well, I could sure use a vacation. So
Yeah.
he kind of gives him like the nod that you give the dog to let him know it's okay to come outside. It's like, come on, let's get out of here.
It also follows through on I guess because in all the madness, we didn't really focus on it too much, but when the trial was happening for our 4 leads, there was a sort of back and forth between JP and John Candy, where John Candy was clearly on a different thought path.
He's moral.
Yeah. And
Right.
JP basically says, like, well, look, when you're doing this job, you can do it your way, but now we're doing it my way.
Yes, you can inherit it once I'm gone, which also will be a plot point for JP. The inheritance of all of this will be very important going forward.
But that's what's cool too, because I thought, and I'm sure Alex at least must have felt the same way since he hadn't seen this before. I thought they were setting up John Candy, this version of John Candy, to save the day at the end. Right, he's gonna be the bad guy, or the guy that's with the bad guys, but he's indecisive, and then in the final act, in the third act, he's gonna turn.
He's Garrett Dillahunt in 12 Years a Slave.
Yes. But no, instead the movie writes him out. I kept waiting for him to come back, with the cavalry, but it never happened, and it was just
the
one of those
cavalry do
things.
come if that helps you any.
Yes, so it's just constant defying of expectations throughout the movie, and it's one of those things that really you don't appreciate until the movie's over. Because when it's happening, when you're watching the movie, you're still caught up on those expectations. You don't realize that they've been thwarted until they haven't materialized. So it's a lot more clever once you're looking back at it.
So that kind of writes off our Brazilianaires, and the payoff is wonderful, but we'll get to that here momentarily. As I mentioned, the house is a maze. Demi and Chevy, Diane and Chris continue to wander through the home. They reach this point in it that's almost like the fucking Goonies, where it's this slide that they end up going down. And, we'll get into my real feelings about this movie in the second half, but one thing I can tell you for sure is that what this movie had was me thinking of this versus like modern movies and why it used to be better. Someone built a slide.
Mhm.
And then they built a set around the slide. And then people went down that slide numerous times, be it the actors, the stunt doubles, or the cameramen to catch like the first person view of it. And just that sequence alone is like a huge example of where Julio and I differ on things. Because I was just thinking like, I love this.
It's
and this
real.
makes me like, it makes me like pine for the days of this. And Julio's just probably like, oh, where's Thor?
and the thing too is, because it's real, it adds to your level of amusement and absurdity of, oh my god, they really did get a room full of bats. Those are real bats, and they just got a big prop of bat poo that's just like yay high or whatever. And then it's a real slide, and oh look, they've got bone props and Dan Aykroyd's makeup. There's a lot to say about that makeup, but it's that thing of, it's like, it's tangible, it's real, and you know that they're really interacting with a set where the wall is chasing them, and they have to open up all these Scooby-Doo type doors where they open a room and it's like nothing but baby dolls crying, or they open another one where it's just a grave, and it's like, that they got the prop people to make these for something that will appear for half a second, and the fact that the effort is put in is greatly appreciated.
It also makes it a little bit of a fun game, because when you read in the trivia that obviously this is, a Dan Aykroyd product, it also said that like the film crew were coming up with all these ideas and Dan Aykroyd was accepting all of them. So it's like, oh, which one was an Aykroyd one? Which one was a other person one?
He's a generous filmmaker. I appreciate it, Alex. I mean, it's no MCU, but that's okay, because this was back in early 90s. You can't expect it to measure up to the MCU. I really liked that that was clearly Demi Moore landing at the end of the slide. She didn't get a body double and then I cut to a close-up of her looking up. No, that was her landing face first and then getting up in one single shot.
Aykroyd asked her, "You want to be a star, don't you?"
She had yet to win her Oscar when she was filming this, so he's like, "You do whatever we tell you in the physical film, so you do it." She had no sway then.
So through all this, Chris kind of finds the psycho hole in the wall where he's looking at the judge, and we come to find out the judge is like almost like a zombie. He takes his wig off and his head's like almost Cro-Magnon style, like deformed, something you'd see in like a cartoon on Cartoon Network back in anywhere from like 96 to 98, that time period. And then he takes his nose off and just kind of hangs it on a hook like you would your hat. So we realize at this point, we're not just dealing with a weird old man. We're dealing with something entirely different.
I had a moment where I thought that we were heading towards a big reveal that it was just a normal guy. That he was going to peel off all the makeup and then it was just going to be Dan Aykroyd.
Okay.
But it didn't happen and I wasn't disappointed. I was just like, okay.
When you said they were going to reveal it's just a normal guy, I was like, well, yeah, you're right, Julio. They do. They give you explanations for why he's deformed throughout the movie. But
and then they reveal that if you take away all the rubbish, it's just a normal house.
Yeah, it's just a normal house.
So from there, Demi, Diane.
She's in the junkyard.
In her attempt to flee,
we get the twins.
Comes across, these two giant babies. What are their names?
Little Devil and Bobo.
Yes. To quote Ryan from many years ago, they look like Majin Buu.
Yeah, they look like Majin Buu from Dragon Ball, yeah. Yeah, it's Bobo and Little Devil. One of them is Dan Aykroyd again. And did you guys notice?
I had read that he was... that he also played a second role. So that's why I think I was kind of prepped to recognize him. If I hadn't known, then I probably wouldn't have recognized him.
So she gets captured here and basically handed over to the twins. And, that's what her side story is for pretty much the remainder of the movie.
So Alex, is that also a practical effect? John Candy lifting Demi Moore over his head?
Oh, in the military press? I don't know. I mean, he's holding her up there. He's posting pretty well. That's, who was it? Billy Gunn was really good at like the military press and holding guys up there. He could do it with one arm too, depending on who he was working with. So I don't know. Maybe Candy went and trained with Alpha, the guy who trained Mickey Rourke for The Wrestler, and showed him how to do a military press. Who knows?
And Demi is wriggling there. She's not even taking it quietly.
She's little, so you can hold her up in the air easy enough. And John Candy's a big dude.
Tiny.
At some point in amongst all of the chaos, they did have a very important scene where our two main characters find a treasure trove of information that gives us why the villains are doing what they do. They find all of these licenses, they find what happened to Jimmy Hoffa and all of these criminals, and they find evidence that this family takes in bad people and bankers and kills them, and they collect it. There's a serial killing aspect to it. So there's even more of a pressure for them to get out because they both know that they're bad people that will most likely face the wrath of this family.
I think they've been doing this around here since the 1890s, and I don't see any reason why they're going to stop at us. I mean, look at this. They're all criminals and creeps.
Bankers.
All right. It's time to, we've had some fun and discussing, what's gone on here. I can be honest in saying like this movie was I was like, what is going on? And then that what is going on went to an entirely new level when the Digital Underground show up. And I literally yell at my TV, is that fucking Tupac?
and Alex, not only is it Tupac, it's his first ever film role.
Oh, dude, he was young. I mean, young, all things being relative. He died 5 years later after this. He was killed. He didn't die, but yeah. So like he's still kind of young and he's not bald. He doesn't have like the kind of iconic Tupac image yet, but he's got the Yankees jersey on. And I was just like, it was one of those that I let the movie keep going because I thought like that couldn't be. And then they showed him again and I was like, that's Tupac. But then I forgot he kind of got one of his first big breaks in the Digital Underground.
Yeah.
They'd have Shock G and who's it? Chopmaster Jay.
Yeah.
Julio, you know who Tupac is, don't you?
I know who Tupac is. I didn't know what he looked like, and I didn't know who the Digital Underground. I thought that it was a band that they created for the movie, because why not? I mean, Dan Aykroyd is coming up with everything.
Dan Aykroyd wanted specifically the Digital Underground because he wanted a up and coming band in the film, and something that was a piece of music that he personally liked. In fact, he's in a music video of Digital Underground that also incorporates footage from Nothing But Trouble. So he had a really great bond with them, and he wanted to give them a shot in his movie because he thought their music was really good, which, again, do you expect to hear the words Dan Aykroyd is a Digital Underground fan? No, I didn't, but here we are, and it's in Nothing But Trouble.
If you don't know anything about this movie, really nothing can prepare you for watching this and then Tupac shows up. It's just kind of...
And he sticks around for a while. That's the thing. He gets a full sequence.
Yeah, because it's not Tupac when he was Tupac. It's just he's like basically an extra in a fucking horror comedy directed by Dan Aykroyd. It's ridiculous.
Because, well, what's his name? Shockmaster G. He's the most important one, if I'm not mistaken. He's the one with the fake nose and the glasses. Mm-hmm. He's the most important member of the Digital Underground in this film, and he gets a lot of jokes. And I don't think most people walk in expecting a full musical number by the Digital Underground in their Nothing But Trouble Dan Aykroyd comedy, but hey, Dan Aykroyd was always on the pulse when it came to music. I mean, think about the Ghostbusters movies.
To be fair, at this point in the movie, like we've come so far, I can say that I was not surprised when we just went into a full-blown musical number. I was like, of course, this is
well,
why
it's
not?
also the melding of, you know, the rap group is performing, and then, you know, fucking Dan Aykroyd starts playing the piano. It's like the Lollapalooza episode of The Simpsons where Cypress Hill starts playing with like the orchestra.
Yeah.
From the film narrative perspective, this scene also serves to establish a rule of threes. It's the third trial that we see, and it plays out. Every single trial is played out differently. Like our main character's, you know, neutral. It's going to continue later. Second character's the Baldwin guy. Sentenced to death. And then with this third one, you do something different. You get the musical number. Dan Aykroyd plays the piano, makes a funny face.
Yeah.
And he actually gives a justification for why he's letting them go.
And it gives you a psychology, a psychopathy to this family's mentality. It's not just they're crazy, and it's because it's a comedy. We don't have to put any effort because they're wacky. Here, he gives you a really clearly defined reason. They bring back to the community. They contribute to the world. And their crime was one where they didn't really do anything bad. They just, what were they, speeding or something, and bring him in. You guys bring back to the community. In fact, could you do me a favor? Because we've also got another plot line happening that I need you to help me with.
You know, heading into that plot line, actually, because, the plot line is that Chevy Chase finds himself engaged to John Candy, to... what's the name of his character? Eldona. He finds himself engaged to Eldona.
Because he's basically like, he bumps into her, so by the rules of the property or whatever he says, they have to, like, he belongs to her. So she's got him chained up, and this eventually leads to, where you're going with the wedding, because that's the reason the Digital Underground hangs around, is because fucking JP asks them to basically be the wedding band. So... Here comes the bride, here comes the groom, Julio.
Yeah, it's another meet cute.
Yeah, it is.
A running cute. I wanted to call out that the reason that Chevy Chase runs into John Candy to Eldona is that he's escaping a fight with Dan Aykroyd. Like, they're getting into it. Like, Dan Aykroyd found him like sneaking around his room, and then Dan Aykroyd pulls a sword, I think. And,
from his cane. From his cane, yeah. And Chevy Chase, they have like a pretty cool fight scene, which the best part is when Chevy Chase accidentally steps into, what do you call those things? Bedpan.
The bedpan. Yeah, he steps into a bedpan and then uses it as a prop to defend himself from Dan Aykroyd. I was in tears. I don't know why I found it so funny, but I guess because I thought that they were going to go for the easy joke, which was like, oh, haha, he stepped on a bedpan. It's gross. But then he actually did something cool with it. And so it's probably my favorite like action sequence in the movie.
Yeah.
To comedic titans going at it with props. But yeah, then he finds himself accidentally engaged, and then Tupac and his musicians play Eldara's entrance. She's really into it. I've seen more than my fair share of weddings on film. And sometimes I'm pretty indifferent because it feels like, most of them feel the same. They follow the same pattern, and you're just kind of like, okay, can we move on to the next bit of the story? But here, there's just something about the fact that the John Candy character is so invested, and we know that Chevy Chase has absolutely no interest, and you have these great musicians in the background, and you have the threat of Dan Aykroyd at the front. Like, this was actually a wedding that was keeping me interested as it was happening.
Yeah, and there's a threat to it underlying it the whole time, and Dan Aykroyd is now friends with Chevy because Chevy's agreed to do this, and you get that nice back and forth where he reveals, Eldona is a great mechanic, so you'll never have car trouble, and things of that.
And there's also like this little challenge going on with the female John Candy character here, because this character is a mute. They're not speaking.
They got hit by a thunderclap when they were little, is what Dan Aykroyd said.
But also from an acting perspective, like, okay, John Candy clearly isn't doing a female voice here. He's just making sounds. So what's he going to do when it comes to the I do? Like, how's he going to sell that? And physically, he was able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
It's all in the eyes.
Chevy was scared. He was scared out of his mind. The best acting from Chevy in the whole movie. He was terrified.
Judge, as far as her needs are concerned, I could never presume to be able to fill them.
So it's time to spring out of here. Chevy starts planning his escape. Meanwhile, like we said, Diane's held hostage with Bobo and Lil Debble. They're like playing cards, and like we see that Stockholm syndrome set in because Diane's talking like them now. Like, oh, Bobo.
This is again. She's playing them because throughout the movie she's always trying to be buddy to JP, and she's like, hey, why don't we do what you say? And now she's captive to these guys. She's trying to play in, and there's that moment where I think it's Little Devil was like, and if I win, I get Diane, because he's horny. and Diane does the, Little Devil, you can't do that. Like, she's playing it to save her life. I that's how I looked at it. Like, I can see the Stockholm syndrome, but I kept looking at her throughout the whole movie as a mover and shaker who's like, okay, I'm in a dangerous situation. If I pair up with the people who are going to hurt me, maybe they won't, because I'm a pretty lady, which... it helps her out.
She's definitely the smartest of the bunch, so that would play out. But Chris, attempting to flee, they have Diane, and it becomes more insane because they have like a fucking PA system through it. It's like Texas Chainsaw 2. That's basically what's unraveling here. And he explains, you come, I'll let her go. He's basically, you get to choose. We see the implement of destruction they're going to use, which is like 3 giant blades. They use
like a bomb trap.
Yeah, it's like 6 watermelons they use to show what it can do. And we see, though, the coal mine they're on top of is already starting to kind of fucking implode. Because at one point, JP's walking cane goes through the ground, and it's like we see smoldering ash below it. So it's like, brother, you got to get moving.
But this is where they live, because throughout all of this, we do find out that his family got screwed over in the past by bankers, and they have nowhere else to go. They have nothing else to them other than this crumbling empire. So they're going to use whatever power they have to get back at the society that betrayed them. So he's not leaving, even if it's going to explode, until later in the movie when he has a motivation to go somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll put a bookmark on that phrase, got to keep moving for later on, because something keeps moving when that comes back.
Yeah.
I really like, speaking of Diane, of the Demi Moore character, though, that she has this moment where, they have her captive. And yeah, you're right. Like, the entire movie, she's being smart. She's been trying to play everybody and play along and being very just sly about how she really feels. But in this climatic moment where they basically tell her, they want her to use her influence over Chevy Chase to get him to give himself up. And she goes up, and instead of asking for help, she yells at him and tells him to run away. And it's the first time in the movie that she's shown like her true colors, I guess, to these guys. Instead of continuing to act like she is Dan Aykroyd's buddy, like she's friendly with everybody, she just instead completely rebels against her captors and just tells Chevy to run, which is a pretty selfless act on her end, and also inspires Chevy Chase to be selfless. So I was not expecting the two main characters here to have an arc, and yet they did.
You have to have an arc because even though this movie,
well, sometimes you don't. You're like, oh, we're just having fun. It's just it's a funny movie.
Yes.
All we want is for them to get away, but actually, no, I want them to get away and be better people for it.
Yes, although this
they are.
movie is bizarre and strange and takes weird left turns, it does follow a traditional movie 3-act structure, including characters changing, motivations being explained. It does do that. It's just you are thrown by the tonal choices as well as some of the characters we meet. But honestly, like, you have to have these two have an arc, or what's the point other than you kill them at the end? Because in horror movies like Friday the 13th, you just kill the characters because they need to die, and that's the end of the story, and move on, and that has its own merits. But this
part 2, Dan Aykroyd takes Manhattan.
Oh man, Freddy versus JP. I would watch that.
So Diane and Chris successfully, or at this point, have successfully gotten to the moat, and it probably could be taken as xenophobic or anti-Brazil, but it does kind of pay off a good joke of like Chris just very off the cuff says it smells like Sao Paulo, and because after the Brazilians earlier complained of it's just like home, that type of thing. So they cross the moat. They're able to get to the other side, and a pretty cool sequence. They see an oncoming train. They're so delirious they don't understand it takes like a train like a mile to safely stop, because they're like, stop, and they end up following it. They grab on like a runaway train, like the song. They're able to get on there, and they're both dirty and grimy, and we get like them settled in. Once we get to like a stopping point, we'll find the police and report what happened, and then we get like a big like movie kiss here, like, and I was kind of surprised at how well it's pulled off, because it's, again, Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, and the movie is kind of insane, but it really does feel like a big earned movie kiss, like a climactic
I mean, they've
kiss.
gone through a lot, so that helps sell it, I think. Alex, as they were escaping in the train, and we see Bobo and Lil Devil kind of waving goodbye to Demi Moore and saying that they're gonna miss her, did you wish that one of them at least had been swinging a chainsaw around?
Would have helped, it's well, maybe not even, because they're just kind of like adults about it. They're over it. Sally, of course, was like, I'm crazy now.
I thought Julio was going to ask Alex, were you crying when they were waving goodbye?
Definitely not.
I didn't realize, usually we'll use this as a negative criticism. I was like, they escaped, the movie's over, but there's still another 10 minutes of movie. I was like, what are we doing now? And what we did is, I thought of the beginning of, is it Jason Goes to Hell, Alex? When they set up like a military operation to get Jason.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that, and I was like, yeah, they blow him up with a bazooka or something.
Yeah.
I remember watching that and thinking, this is what they should have done, in the second movie. The moment that you realize that there's a major threat, you just throw the National Guard at him. And so the response from the authorities when Chevy Chase and Demi Moore tells him what's going on at Dan Aykroyd's house, like, I thought that was a good response. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to see. Everybody goes in, guns blazing, ready to take over. And of course, there's one final twist that is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, they wrangle in the police. Brian Doyle's there as well, and they explain the whole story. We get they look like they just came from the gym. They have like their sweatsuits on with the towels draped over, and they explain what happens.
The police give it to them because it says police on the back.
Yeah, that's right. So they take them to the scene of the crime because they say, we're going to need you to identify this son of a gun. And so they get there and they go up to the front door, and at first JP's kind of playing it off like, why are you bothering an old man? And then he says, you better turn around. There's a beehive, and turn around. And then we get this really great wide shot that goes to like a hard cut in on the police of like everyone's like, hi, Judge. And that's where we learn that the whole damn town's in on it. And it's
the whole system.
Talk about gaslighting, man. At this point, Chris and Diane don't even know it's real.
Dude, I'll be honest. If the movie, Dan Aykroyd's a great filmmaker, and this might have been just studio pressure, but if after this really creepy wide shot of the police and everybody else in town just being happy, if there you just cut to black, directed by Dan Aykroyd, like that, this movie would be perfect because it's such a brutal, dark, downbeat ending.
But we get we get an even better ending, Julio, because you have to pay off the mine is blowing up, so it just blows up now.
I was going to say, yeah, it's been...
It burns. I actually quite like the imagery that this house that is the embodiment of justice and order burns down and descends into hell. I think that's a rather great final image, but that isn't the final image. We get something even better as the final image.
But yeah, this whole scene with the police coming in, guns blazing, it's being set up, slowly. You see them pull in, you see them aim the guns, and it's like, okay, there are so many different ways that this could go. There could be a very straightforward judge comes out and they arrest him, the end. There could be a couple of twists playing here, or probably more expected for this film is like, oh man, JP's got something in mind to just completely swipe them away that we are not seeing coming.
Yeah, this could be another turn in the story where it becomes like the true life of the Foxcatcher incident, where it becomes they hold up in their house and stave away from the police, and now it's like an assault on Precinct 13 type movie.
Or like Red State or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Thank you, Bartek. I was about to say Kevin Smith's Red State.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are just so many little things that end up happening that's like, oh, this is the start of the next idea where, they knock on the door and JP comes out and he's being like, oh, old man. And it's like, oh, it's going to be like a psychological trick. And then you get that whole twist of like, oh, no. They all like the judge and they're friends. And again, back to that bookmark, things got to keep rolling. You barely have any time to register what's happening because it just starts all going down with the explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally, as they're pulling away, it shows like the house fucking imploding. It's pretty rad. But then they like kind of just go on with life like nothing happened.
That's no. I mean, Chevy Chase has nightmares.
Well, I mean, they go back
nightmares.
they go back home. A la Tommy Boy brings the car back just in the rough shape that it's in, but still like cleaning it to make sure it looks good. And yet, not that nothing's happened, but it's just an attempt to go back to normal life is more of the way I should have phrased it. But then the news coverage shows the coal fire and the recovery. And then we see JP saying, well, everything's gone, but I have my son-in-law now that...
grandson.
My grandson-in-law.
Grandson-in-law, that's right, that I can rely on. And then he turns to the camera and he's got the ID and he's waggling it like, I'll see you soon, banker. And then... like it's a fucking Tom and Jerry cartoon. We cut to the wall that has an imprint or a fucking outline that's been broken out of Chevy Chase's body because it's implied that he's so fast to run from the situation that he literally broke through the wall.
You hear his feet going, the door slam, he goes, no, you won't. It really reminded me of that Simpsons gag where Homer's brain is like, I've had enough of this, and you hear it walk down the stairs.
That's it, I'm out of here.
And drive off.
So wait, do we close with that gag with him breaking through the wall, or do we close with the Brazilians?
Oh yes, the Brazilians were somewhere before this. It's such a complex film.
That's it, the scene before.
Oh shit, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it closed with the Brazilians. I guess I put my notes backwards because that's my favorite fucking part. Is they cut to the Brazilians that finally got away to their paradise, and John Candy's with them, and it's now that he's their bodyguard, and also he's taken the female as his lover, and he like puts his hand on her back, and she grabs it and puts it on her ass, and then grabs his, and he kind of like cocks his head back, like, oh, it's a tremendous payoff to that joke because you think lifetime of horror movies, you think that's the whole thing. He's going to sell them out, and they're going to die also. But it's just a wonderful payoff to that story.
Yeah, it's like if Leatherface actually decided, you know what, I do want to leave my household of crazy people and want to have a nice life in Brazil and become a rich person.
Ay, Fausto. That was the most adventurous weekend of my entire life.
When I think about what happened in Balkanbania, I would do it again.
Not me.
I was like James Bond.
Written and directed by Dan Aykroyd, and then Ryan made allusion to it earlier. Cinematography by Dean Cundy, who obviously
John Carpenter's go-to cinematographer.
Yeah, ensconced in the horror genre, and also Julio, who's a cinematographer on Psycho 2, so something that we just discussed 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He did Jurassic Park, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the entire Back to the Future trilogy. Big deal. There's a lot of big deal people here. There's a lot of behind the scenes production people. Makeup person was the person who designed Freddy for Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, right on.
So Dan Aykroyd's makeup only took an hour to put on because by the time this film got made, those Nightmare on Elm Street movies had to get quicker at putting it on. So there was already a method for it. So there you are. And I know that, Alex, you're a fan of that kind of stuff, those horror movies. If you really look at it again, you can kind of tell that it is probably by the same person.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Are we ready to go to real talk? Because I honestly don't know who likes this movie and who doesn't in real life. And I want to find out.
I'm smarter than that. And then, girlie, maybe we can get along. Cutie after cutie. It's just the same old song. Same song.